Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the problem with feminism. So for this video, I'm going to discuss the problem with feminism when it comes to the boundaries that are getting in the way of feminism properly being put in, which is the idea that women can be equal in terms of power when it comes to things like the government, business, and just in general positions of authority that actually offer power. So I'm going to discuss the boundaries that are getting in the way that I see a lot of women do that is not only annoying, but also just straight up stupid and would show that they'd be very problematic if they were to be in positions of authority. So now I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the first of the two problems, when it comes to women being in positions of power, is of course the most obvious one of all, which is associated with women, is their sensitive nature. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to the topic of having women in positions of power, I tend to notice, and this is coming from a left wing person, if I haven't already said it before, you know, that a lot of them tend to think that they can still pull off the same shit that they would pull off on an every day to day basis when it comes to their lives, okay? Because the truth of the matter is, as we all know, of course, as I said before, and just in general common sense, we all know it in the world, women are more sensitive than men, okay? And of course, maybe on a day-to-day basis, it shouldn't be as problematic, but even though I know, yes, it can get annoying, the truth of the matter is, we as men all know that, of course, that's a part of female nature, so we have to kind of get used to it, at least in certain circumstances for that matter, okay? So the truth of the matter is they are more sensitive than men, okay? But on a ground to ground basis, of course, like I was saying, that is normal. But when you're in a position of power, like authority, like whether it could be business or specifically the government, I'll be using the government as an example. Like you have to make life altering decisions that obviously can affect the lives of billions of people. Specifically, if you run America, like let's just say you're the president of the United States and you're a female, or you're a female in a position of high power and authority in the United States government. Okay, the truth of the matter is, obviously, when you're in a position of authority, that of course at some point you're going to realize, okay, I'm going to make a decision that's going to affect a lot of people's lives seriously and will even at some point result in some people dying. The truth of the matter is a woman's sense of nature to cry and, in situations of not only in a case like this due to stress, but also just generally due to, oh, I don't want to take someone's life and this and that. I don't want to be cruel and evil, would be the worst thing to do in a situation, okay? It's just like, God forbid, let's just say a situation happens in the world, okay? Um, you know, for example, maybe a nuclear war pops off, or not even nuclear war, but a war between a major nation pops off, and then the government, of course, has to, of course, have someone who's in a position of extreme power, a woman, speak to a group, to the nation, which will probably have like anywhere from 300 million to more of the 335 million people and more that will exist in the United States in the future. You get the point, 300 million plus more, you know, to speak for the United States. What are you going to do when you have to speak for a nation of 300 million people because there is a major war that could break out between, let's just say, God forbid, China or Russia or something like that? What are you going to do? Cry? When you talk about the situation, or even not just doing a major speech the the world, you know, to hear through of course speaking through like a major speech or something. But let's just say you have a press conference. Perfect example too. So it's not even like something you can record and just put out there or have a script. You just have to speak in front of a huge group of people, about a situation like a war is coming out, or maybe it's a major disease or natural disaster, God forbid. Are you just going to sit there and just cry, because people are asking you a lot of very hard questions and you can't answer it? Or because, maybe you're just devastated by the human loss or toll? People are going to see that as a sign of weakness and wonder why you are in a position of power anyway when you have to deal with situations like that. Specifically, the main thing that obviously would cause the most tears would obviously be stress. Obviously, for a woman in a position of that, for someone in a position of that power. Okay, so if you're gonna be stressed out and start crying, like how the hell are you gonna be a good leader that not only people take seriously but make good decisions? For that matter, that doesn't make any fucking sense. And that's what I'm trying to say. And that's what feminists never answer. They always want to blame men for everything and say we need to be equal and this and that. But if you're in a position of authority like that, like what are you gonna do then? Besides, we live in a world, and I have seen this directly, and I've heard this directly, where grown women, these are not even women who are between the ages of like 5 and like 13. These are grown women, for crying out loud, who will actually cry, and not just cry, but say the worst things about themselves, like I'm stupid and this and that, just because they're doing a schoolwork assignment that is hard. That's the world we live in. Okay, most women, it's already been proven, if the schoolwork assignment is hard enough, will cry because it's so difficult, for crying out loud. Okay, that is the truth of the matter. Okay, so what, how can you if you have a gender of people that are that sensitive, how can you handle a position of handle people in a position where they have to, of course, do something that is, of course, as important as running the government? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's my first point. The second point, of course, to add to that as well, when it comes to the problem with feminism, is just the extreme attitude a lot of women have. Okay, I'm not gonna hide my words here. This is very true. Of course, society doesn't like to talk about it, but there's a lot of women out there in this world who do like to bother men and bully men, straight up, for that matter. Okay, like even from experiences I've had, and I've heard a lot of men in general have as well. To put it bluntly, there's a lot of women. I'm not saying a majority, but a certain portion of women that just like to start shit and talk a lot of shit, for that matter, and just start beef with people for no real reason. And you can clearly tell they're doing that because they're unhappy with their own life. But either way, it's mad freaking annoying. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to giving women equal rights, why do I want to give an equal rights to people, you know, when I know a lot of them, I'm not saying a majority in this case, but a good portion of them are some of the most horrible people you can imagine in your life. And that's what I'm trying to say here. And I've seen this happen numerous times, and I've heard about it happening numerous times. There's a lot of women who like to bully men and bother men, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to a position of power, you know, it becomes quite an irritating thing. Okay, so what? I'm just gonna be working my ass off doing a hard job that's very difficult, and I'm gonna be having to waste my time getting in stupid drama with women and stuff. And if, like, let's just say I'm in a position running a business or something, it becomes annoying and irritating very quickly. And if you hit them, even if people will say, okay, we all know she's an instigator in a situation, it obviously still creates a situation where, of course, you look weird because you hit a woman, especially if you hit her really hard. So the fact that we would create a situation like that, or I should say, a situation can be created like that, is really stupid and silly, and when it comes to women and being in a position of authority. And this is coming from someone who's left wing. And that's the thing what feminists don't understand. They never actually confront the fact that a lot of women just like to start shit for no real reason, let alone the previous point I made. Okay, they do this all the time and it's annoying. And not everyone has time to get caught up in stupid drama, especially if I hit them, then everyone's going to say, oh, why'd you hit a girl for? Or look at you weirdly because you hit a girl. That's what I'm trying to say. It's annoying. So that's my two problems with feminism. So what I'm trying to say for this video is I don't have a problem with feminism, at least, well, at least when it comes to its core principles, which is female equality. But if women truly want equality, they're going to have to work on these two things, because these two things I mentioned in this video are extremely annoying and irritating and can get in the way. And if you want to be in a position of authority and power, as you said, you're equal to men, you have to be willing to do what men are able to do. If you're going to cry and fuss and say all sorts of things about yourself just because a situation is getting stressful, or just go around starting trouble with other men just because you're insecure about yourself, then that's obviously not something you want to have when you're in a people when you have people in positions of power, for that matter. Okay, and that's the truth of the matter. So now until women can fix this issue, which I know a lot of them do, I'm not hiding my words, can fix these issues, for that matter, then maybe it's best they just don't have that equal position. But if they're able to change, then they should be able to have the same rights as men. Because this stuff goes on way, way, way too often. And that's the truth of the matter. So I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to be 100% honest because this shit's mad annoying. And that is it. So to sum up what I'm trying to say, until women can change these things, should feminism, the objective of feminism be taken seriously. So this is my video. This is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you like it, remember to thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say, and I'm out. So bye.